And don't worry, Jeremy John, put your ball up for you, Norris. His partner as steady as they come as a defender. He was 2015's Defender of the Year, 2015's Most Valuable Player on the AVP Tour. 2 years ago, he got gentlemen his first ever win on the AVP Tour. That was Ryan Doherty, Johnny Mayer, a champ from 2 years ago here in Seattle. He is a 4-time AVP Tour champion. Look at make 5. He is Johnny, the Mayor of Defense. Got it. Beautiful catch. And their opponents, they have been rolling through the winner's bracket, looking like the best team here this weekend. And this first guy is looking for win number 1 on the AVP Tour. He had a chance to do it last year. He was denied by one Billy Allen and Theo Brunner, but not this time, says Trevor. This is the time Trevor Crabb playing like a champion all weekend long. Let me hear it for Trevor Crabb. And Trevor's partner, one of the legends of the game, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most athletic people, not only in beach volleyball, but of anybody in the world. The things he does on the court are absolutely unthinkable. With his left hand, with his right hand, with his 97-inch vertical. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hear it for Superman, Sean Rosenthal. If only he had a 97-inch vertical, he would have caught that ball. And he hits it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the beer deck is open. Go check it out if you're 21 and over. Have yourself a good time. Bring me a Bloody Mary. We can get one up here. And let's do this. It'll be Johnny and Mayer at the line to start us off. Here we go.
Washington, this is the Seattle Open men's semifinal number 2 between Johnny Mayer, Jeremy Casebeer, and Trevor Crabb and Sean Rosenthal. I'm Matty Bishop alongside Olympic gold medalist and beach volleyball coach extraordinaire Johnny Mayer getting us underway. Rich, this is a tasty, tasty matchup.
It certainly is. We saw a great first men's semifinal, and I look for this one to be just as exciting. 2 wonderful teams. Johnny Mayer and all great defenders, and Trevor Crabb, Jeremy Casebeer, wonderful blockers at the net. I'm looking forward to seeing some great all-around beach volleyball, some amazing defense, amazing offense to go along with it here.
2 incredibly athletic, just gifted blockers with 2 amazing steady Eddie kind of guys, super experienced defenders. That one just missed. Exciting matchup. Trevor yesterday, he was feeling it. Looked like he was playing the best volleyball that certainly I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, he's certainly very skilled. A little bit what we would consider undersized as a blocker, but he makes up with it. Makes up for that, excuse me, with incredible instincts and technical soundness. A couple hitting errors, though, from the Casebeer-Mayer side give Crabb and Rosenthal an early 3-1 lead.
Match like this is not going to have much of a margin for error. Those could come back to haunt him.
As we heard in the intros, Rosie, commonly referred to as Superman, just an amazing athlete, just naturally gifted. I mean, he didn't have a tremendous amount of formal training as we would consider it, but does such ridiculously impressive things on the volleyball court. As you saw, he was in a full deep squat and almost one-hand, left-handed, dug that ball, but ultimately the shot just too good.
It's a beautiful read. Jeremy Casebeer just a little too hot to handle there. Another error on the Casebeer-Mayer side. Maybe some nerves out of Jeremy early?
Perhaps he's not necessarily accustomed to being in this position in the semifinals, and serving is a big weapon. His serve in particular, a big weapon for his team, so he's going to be looking to fire that thing up.
We see a little Sean Rosenthal on display right there as just getting a hand on that shot was an incredible feat. He nearly scoops it up.
Where's the Mayor clan? Where we at?
It's almost a disservice that the uniform of beach volleyball is kind of the baggy board shorts, in the sense that Rosie has absolute tree trunk thighs that are completely covered up by those stylish Crabb board shorts.
So Rich, are you going on the record suggesting that short shorts are the way to go for beach volleyball in the future?
No, I'm going on the record suggesting that short shorts are the way to go for Rosie, so we can all admire the ridiculousness of his musculature in the leg department.
Nice get.
Wow.
Eddie Bell, what a play. What a scramble.
That's kind of a hallmark of the Rosenthal Crabb team right there, is their control of the ball. You see here on the replay, just a bang bang play off the block. Rosie with the stab, Trevor with another stab, and then a nicely placed bump over by Rosie.
You see Rosie, he's not even like down and ready in a low squat. He's just watching and reading. He sees it and reacts so fast.
Lefty, okay, catching the hot pocket.
Rosie putting all the skills on display here early, set one. 6-3 lead for his team as he puts away the ball with the left.
Jeremy Casebeer, the Lorax, has a bit of a legend up here in the Pacific Northwest, Riches. I think 2013 at the Seaside Volleyball Tournament, right before he started coming into his own as the main draw guy on the AVP Tour. Came up here with a fellow named Dan McGuire, absolutely dominated. Ridiculous exciting final. I don't think Rosie's going to let him have another moment in the sun here, though, in Seattle.
7-3.
Little trickle ace there. Rosie, things rolling well for Crabb Rosenthal here early. They're coached by former member of the booth up here, Jeff Alzina. And we see the great technical work on the block of Trevor Crabb. Diving into that angle.
Does, just knowing where that ball's going, having the perfect size blocker, and that forces the early timeout from John and Jeremy here.
Trevor's got some springs, but he does have to rely a little more on being technically sound with his handwork and so forth, as he's not quite as high up as a Stafford or a Jake that we saw in the semifinal previous.
So we mentioned earlier, we saw the Crabb brothers here last year in the finals. They lost to Billy Allen and Theo Brunner, who were playing together at the time. They played incredibly well. The surprise, I think, when the Crabb brothers split, we knew Taylor would go, but I think a lot of us expected that Trevor would start making the transition to being a defender as well. Seemed to be a little bit more national fit for him, especially at the FIVB level. Hasn't happened yet. Do you think that's still something that's potentially in his future?
It may be in his future. The trouble one faces is that the list of international level blockers is pretty short. So there are more defenders available of the caliber of a Rosie, of the caliber of a John Mayer, the caliber of a Taylor Crabb or a Billy Allen like we saw in the other semifinal. And so if you have the ability to block at a well above average level, it's easier for you to find a partner that is a defender that is at a similar level than it is to just pick up a blocker, especially one willing to take a chance on you as a player who hasn't necessarily been a defender for very much time. It may happen in the future, though. I wouldn't count it out. One of the things I marvel at with the Crabb brothers, the McKibben brothers, if you follow indoor volleyball, there's the Shoji brothers. We have Micah Christensen out here on the beach. We have Tri-Born. I don't know what was happening about 28 years ago in the islands of Hawaii, but there's just an unbelievable amount of talent that is gracing both our indoor national teams and the AVP and World Beach circuits right now. What a dig.
That's why they call him Superman. He's unshakable. Sean Rosenthal is incredible.
And it's nice to see him healthy. He's had some physical ailments the last year or so, which you might imagine. The way I like to think about it is if I was falling from that high over and over and over again for 30 some odd years, I might have back issues too. But it's great to see him healthy and showing us what he can do out here.
A swing from Johnny Mayer there. That last dig by Rosie, he was sitting right on that line. They knew where that ball was going. How much does he bring to the table, or does a player who's been through so much experience as him, how much does he bring to that cat and mouse game that's played through the course of a match?
Well, certainly his experience plays a huge role. Their coach, Jeff Alzina, spent some time scouting up here. Little question as to whether or not the ball was on the Crabb Rosenthal side of the net, but the up ref has it fair play. Yeah, so kind of the combination of experience with and some instincts lead to kind of that defensive prowess of Rosie.
Saw the replay. I think Trevor and Rosie might have had a pretty pretty fair assessment of that play there.
If you believe in karma, volley gods, it all leveled out with the service mistake there from Johnny Mayer.
Even if you don't believe in it, it's a cool thing to say. It makes you feel a little better.
Then you're left questioning how on earth did Sean miss that serve and return if there is a volley god. See it up from the end line here.
There it is.
Instead, he heats it up from the net. Nice little dive into the angle there.
Big reach out with that left hand. Took away the cross court.
We talked about it in the first men's semifinal about how good these guys are at setting one another. And we're going to see that from all four players here as well. Trevor and Rosie, both incredible hand setters. Johnny and Jeremy, both incredible hand setters. And so we'll look for both teams to be in system quite a bit in this match. There from Jeremy. Even a passer as talented as Trevor Crabb, when you're faced with a perfect serve, sometimes there's nothing you can do. Jeremy just drops that right on the buckle in the corner.
That is about as good as it gets from Jeremy Casebeer.
Clearly he's back there going, that's exactly what I was going for.
Maybe he's starting to feel better, starting to get those nerves out. Don't have the record books in front of me, but I don't recall in recent memory Jeremy playing on a Sunday.
Semifinals are kind of rarefied air. Not easy on the AVP tour to get to Sunday and be in the semifinals. You're in elite company, and certainly all four of these teams that we've seen today deserving of that rarefied air.
So we get to the technical timeout in set number 1 here in the AVP Seattle Open, Lake Sammamish State Park.
Will we get some insight into Smarty Pants vitamins, or will we do our own commercials at this technical timeout, Matty?
I was thinking, I was just going to mention that that I witnessed Jeremy Rouchet doing some paddleboarding out here on the lake last night, stand-up paddle. It's not the guy's first rodeo. He's pretty good at it. Amazing venue. Rich, curious, you get to travel around to all the AVP venues. You know, they all have their own unique thing. But where else would we be? What are some of the other places where maybe we're not touching right now that stick out to you as potential for AVP expansion?
Potential for AVP expansion, that's an excellent question. You know, I think there are maybe some Midwest markets that are, I don't know if untapped is the right word, because I would be foolish if I pretended that I had any idea what goes into putting on an event as wonderful as this. But, you know, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for volleyball, and certainly kind of being landlocked, as it were. There can be a lot of interest to see some of this, the sexiness of this sport. Wow, Rosie almost with the hand-foot dig. Yeah, so, I mean, it would be interesting. I remember a few years back we were at shoot, I can't think of the name, but it was somewhere in the Milwaukee, not Belmar.
Bradford
Beach.
I've heard that place is legendary.
It was fantastic. They had a wonderful facility there, kind of on the water with a ton of courts. They had an AVP next, kind of simultaneously running, so there was a ton of players around, lots of enthusiasm. Places like that are lots of fun for both players and fans. So, you know, I know AVP owner Donald Sun and his wonderful staff have a plan in place over the next few years to kind of grow the sport slowly but steadily. And so we'll look to see maybe some of those places pop up.
You know, you mentioned the Midwest, and it's not an expansion one. It's actually happening. It's happened for the last couple of years, I believe. But the one I want to really see is Chicago. I've heard so much about the volleyball scene in Chicago and how cool that area is and how that community rolls. I want to get out and check out the series championship in Chicago.
It's a good one, and you get kind of a similar vibe to New York in that you're next to the water, Lake Michigan there, but you have the backdrop of the skyscrapers of downtown, which is really kind of visually impressive. And then, of course, you have a nice volleyball community in Chicago, so you have the enthusiasm and the fervor from the fans as well.
Last year was my first, and I got to go watch and see some of that. The history, the culture, the heckling was what stood out more than anything else in Manhattan Beach.
And this match would be a fun one were it happening in Manhattan Beach, because Rosie's Raiders would be out in force, and they would be none too pleased with what happened right there. Big stuff by Jeremy Casebeer. They'd be letting him know about it and trying to get in his head.
Those guys make an impact on a match. I was kind of hoping we'd see him here, at least a few. Little disappointed that Rosie's Raiders didn't travel up to the Northwest. I mean, we made the weather nice enough for you.
Yeah, I think it disparaged the entire group, but I'm not sure that all of them are in solid forms of employment, so traveling is not necessarily always an option.
The rail lines running up the coast aren't the most desirable option.
Yeah, you get your bag of clothes on the end of a stick and you try and hop the rail.
We just painted a really disparaging picture of Rosie's Raiders.
Not to invoke their anger.
They're a wonderful addition to the atmosphere around the AVP Tour, though, to have that kind of passion.
Near miss there from Rosie in transition. He did a great job running that line shot down, but he wishes he had that one back, because that would have been a nice opportunity to extend the lead for his squad. As it is, Jeremy and Johnny within one here.
And they've overcome some of those early errors, some missed serves, a couple swings that they'd like to have back, and they're right here in this first set. Some good points down the stretch. Jeremy, big presence at the service line.
All right, Trevor, Crabb.
It's hard to explain how ridiculous of a play that is. We'll see Rosie lean, almost go to his knees for that serve receive, and when his partner takes it, he dead sprints the net and lays up a perfect set for his partner, Trevor Crabb, for the side out. I heard somebody mentioning just the other day about Johnny Mayer that tends to get forgotten. He played, I think, every position but maybe libero when he was in college at Pepperdine. National championship as an opposite at 6 feet tall. Was a setter for a while, was an outside hitter for a while. I mean, the guy is ridiculously skilled as he runs that line shot down. A little bit of a mistake on the set there in transition from
Jeremy knows it. Johnny's not going to win that joust very often with Trevor Crabb. Does speak, though, to the all-around skill set that competing on the beach not only requires but develops in young athletes, to be able to go from the hard court to the beach with that skill set, or be able to go from the beach to the hards court and plug yourself in anywhere on the indoor is a hallmark of what the beach game really brings, I think, Rich.
I would agree with you. I would think Johnny is probably pretty singular in his ability to do all of those things at such a high level. but certainly the beach game does kind of add arrows to your quiver, as it were, from a skill set standpoint, to keep it alliterative.
You know, the other thing that I think the beach really adds to an athlete's skill set is the development of eye work and anticipation. And, you know, having played at the highest level, having a gold medal with the indoor men's national team, you obviously have some experience with eye work and anticipation. Curious what sort of parallels you might draw.
Yeah, one of the ways I would think about it is the ability to read the game, right? That's kind of maybe just a different way to say eye work,
same
you're talking about. But it's kind of an ability to increase your volleyball IQ, right? Recognizing situations more quickly and figuring out the proper way to respond to those situations more quickly. Seeing cues in hitters, seeing cues in blockers, kind of some of the game management stuff we talked about in the first semifinal about recognizing situations. My team is on a 4-0 run. I've got to keep the pressure on the team on the other side of the net. Little things like that, that when you're forced to learn some of those things. And one of the things we talk about with the beach is there's nowhere to hide out here. If I'm having a rough day, even like as a libero, let's say, in serve receive indoors, we can pinch me and make it almost impossible for the other team to serve me. That's not the case out here. If I'm struggling out here, they're going to pick on me relentlessly and relentlessly and relentlessly. And so it also creates kind of a grit that's going to serve me well.
A mental toughness. That's an incredible point. And we watch young athletes, especially making the transition from indoor to beach, struggle with that. There's no substitution. There's extremely small amount of input from the coaches. Ooh. Oh, that was, yeah.
Jeremy's got a little bit of a deep dish, and so sometimes there can be a little extra sauce on the thing. First set point for Crabb and Rosie. This has been a very hotly contested first set. A little back and forth in the Trevor and Rosie been out front most of the way, but it's been tight.
Rosie misses. We've been treated to some really high-level execution, especially through the first semifinals. There's very, very slim margin of error. This one, Johnny and Jeremy may be paying the price here at the end for some early errors they could have avoided. Still an opportunity. They came back and made up for it down the stretch and are still in this one late.
Service error closes it out in set one there. Yeah, I would agree with you. They've got to feel confident in that if they had a handful of plays back and executed, if they had executed them at the level that they're accustomed to executing them at, they would have been in that set, if not ahead in that set. So that's what they'll be looking to do coming out in set number 2, I would think.
I think so. Great first set, great atmosphere. Hey, if you're listening to us anywhere around the Seattle area, you've got time to get down here for the finals. Women's final starts at 12:30. It's going to be off the hook. Beer garden is open, sun is out. That's always a great combination, right?
Alcohol and sunshine.
Especially people in the Pacific Northwest who degrees yet this year.
Right.
Has potential to get ugly today, Rich. But
that's one of the hallmarks I live my life by. If there's going to dehydrate myself with alcohol as much as possible. We should give a shout out. I just saw, we're seeing a glimpse of him there. That's Coach Tom Black, coaching Johnny Mayer and Jeremy Casebeer this weekend. He's the head women's indoor coach at the University of Georgia and worked for a long time under head coach Crabb, the women's national team. But he's got a ton of experience, a ton of knowledge, and somebody who Johnny Mayer respects a lot, which is saying something, because Johnny, one of the best minds in the game.
So, Rich, something that you have a lot of personal experience with is making that transition from the indoor to the beach game as a coach. Do you mind taking just a moment or two and talk about that? Because that's something that's really fascinating to a lot of folks right now. It's kind of new still.
It's pretty new, and to be honest with you, one of the things I like about it is that I'm constantly learning as well, because it formed me. I think my mindset and what I hope is the case is that I try and bring my team some technical proficiency, because I think the skills, for the most part, are similar. The way we receive serve, in large part the way we set the ball, and then a lot of the game management stuff that you'll hear me talk about a lot, I think is very, there's a lot of carryover in those things. Now, some of the strategies and player tendencies and so forth, I rely on my players for some of that, because you know, the feeling you get on the court is oftentimes a lot different than what you get from the sidelines as a coach. And so I rely on their knowledge and their experience and try and meld it with my own kind of brand of technical proficiency and kind of worrying about what's happening on our side of the net type of mentality.
A fast-paced set again and a beautiful up by Rosie.
Just got him on the way out.
Just barely. Did it get Trevor or did it get Rosie? Could you see?
It got Rosie, I think.
Got Rosie? Okay.
Just, you know, self-preservation is a strong instinct.
We tell the girls it's saving the pretty. You got to save the pretty. Easy one for Johnny.
Again, a little bit of a tough set there in transition. That's going to be something they need to smooth out just a little bit if they hope to come back in this match, because, you know, scoring opportunities are few and far with a team as good, against a team, I should say, as good as Trevor and Rosie are. Capitalize on those things when you get them.
Oh, Trevor gets the net. Rosie was all over that one.
One of the kind of Murphy's laws of volleyball is that anytime a blocker nets, the ball is dug behind.
That does seem to be the case. Either that or that's when we really notice the net. The rest of the time, it was down anyway. Yep.
That got a little thummy.
Hitting down in his thumbs.
Oftentimes, you know, it's a very difficult job for the up refs, and I think they do a tremendous job at it. Calling those doubles. You mentioned it seems like they're letting a lot of stuff go. They're trying their best to call it properly, which is not to just rely on whether see that double contact, and that did look like a little bit of a fit contact from Trevor there.
Well, and you know, one of the things that's been really impressive about this event is how involved in the whole atmosphere the officiating crew is.
Right.
You know, Mark's constantly over here jabbing at the refs when he's down on, and they're personable. They're a lot of fun. It's a little different than the officiating crews from most other sports.
Right. Yeah, and they're very friendly with the players as well, which I imagine adds an element of difficulty to their job.
Certainly.
At the end of the day, but yeah, they're all great men and women officiating this sport.
Rosie all over that one again. Big read on the option and then catches Jeremy in the pull. He is fun to watch.
He really is fun to watch. I think that was a little bit of a break, top of the tape, which affected that swing just enough to throw Jeremy off. Otherwise, I think he may have been on. One of the things we're going to see out of Rosie, just kind of that natural, instinctive defensive play, is he's going to be in all kinds of contorted looking positions, but he's never going to be off balance. He's going to use chest. He does kind of the wax on, wax off style defense there, and almost comes up with that one right off the left pec.
Imagine that his training regimen is some insane combination of squats and yoga.
Yeah, one of his big things is the Manhattan Beach sand dune, which if you've ever had the opportunity to try and traverse that thing, it is not fun. And you get a little glimpse into maybe how he got the thighs that he's got. Because you take a step and just kind of the earth moves under you and you seem to go nowhere while exerting maximum effort. And it's really frustrating, and it's fantastic conditioning. And he's a legend there. Swing from Johnny there. They're also running a little bit of a tempo set out to the pin or
Both
Johnny
of them.
and Jeremy.
They're both ways. It's not just one of them sitting there. It's both of them are comfortable doing that. It's opening up that line shot, it seems like. Anytime that not getting over and digging that line, it's pretty open for them on that tempo set to the outside.
Nice communication there from Jeremy. Turning around, taking a look, and his partner was sprinting towards the ball. He gave him the out call, and he was correct. Johnny was on it in any event. Really nice display of ball control there from both sides. Trevor passed that thing about 45 feet in the air, and Rosie laid up a hittable bump set over his shoulder.
One of the most impressive plays to me in the beach game, and you get so much at the men's level, is that touch off the block, the hitter comes down, the defender has the wherewithal to turn their dig into a set, and then there's a transition and a swing, all in what seems like a fraction of a second.
Yeah, it's impressive that these guys are at the level to where they can not only see and or hear the touch, but that switch in their head to know that they've got to not only dig this ball, but push it up there to their partner because it's got to go over the net.
An incredible level of just mental control as well as the physical. There's that line again. Seen Rosie camp on it earlier in the match a couple times now. Johnny got one, Jeremy got one. They're going down that line and having some joy.
Yeah, that's a good swing because that is not easy to see that thing kind of come across your body and be precise with it down the line like Jeremy was there. We see a bit of this out of Mayer and Casebeer, kind of the high risk from the service line. That's their game. They know they're a little bit of an undersized team, and so they sort of risk to score some points from the service line. High swing off the hands from Johnny. Nicely done.
Hoping we're getting net cam of that one. No, different view. I thought Trevor had it. Johnny does make a nice swing to just change up that angle a little bit.
Frustrating thing about the skill of blocking, you can do everything right and the hitter can be too good on any given play. And Johnny was just too smart with that shot, hitting it high off the hands. Trevor doing
such a thin margin there.
Yeah.
Fractions of an inch.
We couldn't identify anything that Trevor could have done better there, but smarter shot.
Rosie.
You could almost hear Rosie coil up and then just uncoil on that ball. Thump it cross court.
Such a fast arm swing. As you get the slow-mo view there, it's still fast.
One of the things, I've said this in the past, you know, it's fun to watch Rosie, and you know he's jumping high because when he lands, he's got to do almost a cushioning hop.
The one-handed flat palm set.
Just missing wide. Trevor with a pretty nice heads-up play. That thing got kind of tight. He thought maybe a joust was coming, so he pulled his hands and got the error from Johnny Mayer. So as not to give Johnny anything to swing at.
Good read, especially right after Johnny used you for the point before on that cross-court play.
Right.
The mature, intelligent play from Trevor Crabb. Second time we've seen a misfire on an easy one. Those are going to come back to haunt you.
That's a tough chance because as the right-hander from the right side, it's got to cross all the way over your body. And we'll see if the play continues here. He doesn't quite get the thing high enough on his shoulder.
For those of you who are wondering why they call him Rosie Superman, you just saw it right there, the full Superman layout.
We have the ace serve, my goodness.
Follows it up with the ace.
It's good to see him playing like this again.
It really
He was
is.
not himself for a while there.
Right.
Really exciting to have him in Seattle playing like this. Really fun to see Sean Rosenthal putting on a little show here.
That one just missed.
Yes, we got a good view of the ball mark. Get some sand back over the line, but I think it was out.
In either direction there. From an 8-6 lead just a second ago to now an 11-9 deficit for Johnny and Jeremy. They're looking to kind of stem the tide, get to point number 10 going into the technical timeout here. Rosie and Trevor on a little bit of a tear the last few points. Great shot there from Jeremy. Just soft, high off the hands.
And we'll take our technical timeout, 11-10.
We talked a little bit about Jake Gibbs' ab game in the first semifinal. The hands down undefeated champion of the ab game is Jeremy Casebeer. He kind of jokingly said in New York that it looked like he swallowed a turtle.
Just been cruising all the way through the winners bracket.
There he is right there. Of course, he's seated, so we're not going to get a look at that ab game, but maybe we'll let the cameraman pull.
I'm glad to see he has the hair back, though. Isn't the same with the mustache, no hair last year.
Sponsored by Hippie Tree, which I think couldn't be more appropriate.
Cool name for a brand.
Yeah, it really is. And certainly he kind of embodies that whole vibe. Let's see if we get it as he stands up here. Oh my goodness, there's the abs. I'm starting to notice a theme in my commentary. I've talked about Rosie's thighs and Jeremy's abs. I'm a little nervous with where I'm headed here. Might need to do some soul searching at the end of this tournament.
I do. I coach mostly teenage girls, and they certainly appreciate the ab game that goes on here at the Seattle Open. There's no question about that.
Right, little mistake in the on-2 attempt as we come back to the court, and we're all level at 11 now. Let's see if Jeremy and John can make a charge here. Second half of this second set, they need it. Trevor and Rosie win in the first, 21-18.
Talk about the different elements, the game management, the strategy that the players are responsible for on the beach, but also just how difficult is it to be in the moment when you're competing. You're not only competing, but you're competing for a paycheck, essentially.
Yeah, there is certainly that added pressure. These guys are doing it kind of week in and week out. So I think that pressure diminishes a little bit over time, but that's speculation on my part. You know, people have families and bills to feed and mortgages to pay and so forth. So that's always kind of at least an undercurrent.
One of the things that some people disagree with me on this one, but I think is really special about beach is it is a very self-driven game. If you're going to get to this level, there's no draft, there's no guaranteed rookie contract, there's no, you're putting yourself on a line in a way that that professional athletes from other sports don't necessarily have to, financially, emotionally, you know, lifestyle. You've got to work through it, and that's got to be incredibly challenging, but also you know something about these guys when they get to this level. You know what they've been through.
Yeah, and there's also, because of the way beach is with points systems and so forth, there's a bit of a grind. Nice little block there from Trevor, and one just misses. That'll give Rosie and Trevor a 2-point cushion here, 14-12. You know, there's a bit of grind, and what I mean by that is you can't just show up and you're better than everyone and you get to play in the tournament. I've seen that with Ricardo Santos. one of the most decorated players in the history of our sport, but doesn't have any AVP points as of yet. Well, I mean, he does now, but didn't a couple weeks ago, so he's got to grind through the qualifier. And every player out here has been in that situation at one time or another.
Oh, Rosie back on the line, picked up that dig and then missed, not by much. We were talking about it. Jeremy and John were having some joy down the line. Look at that air. Oh, Rosie
shared moment
so
between
high.
Jeremy and Rosie after the ball too. Rosie with kind of a wry smile. Good move. I just missed that one. Jeremy with maybe a sigh of relief. He's looking to equalize from the service line here.
We will switch sides, 15 to 13. Okay, getting into the latter stages of set number 2. Now is the time to back
Things I talk about kind of maybe more than I should, but it's just continually so impressive to me is the body control that all these athletes out here have. It never seem to be too stressed. Just kind of, I'm just going to elevate, take a look, and put the ball away. Nice little example of that from Trevor Crabb down the line on that swing. That was the right shot. Johnny saw it, just popped a little bit too hard off the heel of his hand there, I think.
Sometimes you get stuck in the mindset where you're trying to be too precise. You overthink it a little bit. In baseball, they say, you know, just throw strikes. Is there kind of a similar vibe in beach?
Yes, I certainly think there is. One of the concepts we talk about a lot is creating hesitation in your opponent. And so if you can kind of give them some fakes in the backcourt, you know, Johnny Mayer is obviously a player who sees what's going on the opposite side of the net very, very well. But if you can cause just that split second of hesitation, which I think Rosie and Trevor did a great job of on that, it slows down his decision ever so slightly, and we saw him miss that shot by just, you know, a slight fraction long, and that's a win for Trevor and Rosie.
Trevor put that one away with some authority. Not the same fire out of Trevor today that we saw yesterday. That match on center court against Casey and Theo, Trevor looked like he had something to prove this weekend. He's a little more subdued today.
A little more businesslike. It's a chance to get to the finals. Jeremy says not quite yet. Again, as we've talked about, they're looking to obviously win this set. They trail by 2 right now. At the very least, they're trying to narrow the gap if we end up getting to the freeze, because then it's kind of anybody's ball game. It's interesting how, as the you almost feel like, hey, there's nothing to lose. You advantage there. Johnny just able to not control that one off of his chest.
Makes me nervous every time I see the players running towards the scoreboards, the digital scoreboards. They have kind of that like Game of Thrones thing going along the top there, the wall. They're cool.
The spikes, yeah.
I don't think
one of these guys do you
go
think
over them?
Which one of these guys do you think would be most ripe for the Night's Watch?
I would go with probably Jeremy.
Jeremy?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Although he's married to international star and current AVP player Maria Salgado, and their son Joaquim is about as adorable as it gets. So it'd be a pity if he were in the Night's Watch and incapable of reproducing. Thus concludes our hypothetical look into what if these players were on Game of Thrones, a fictional television show.
Probably wise to conclude that one early.
Yeah, that error brings the Mayer Casebeer team to within 1 here. They're kind of what's been the better side all weekend. Still no win. out here.
So here's where the freeze gets exciting, because 2 points ago, Rich, they miss one side out, they're gonna win, it's easy, right? But now with the freeze, there's a little more pressure on Trevor and Sean. They're gonna have one point. It's not as much of a foregone conclusion. Jeremy's in the net there.
And of course, the ball dug behind.
Every time.
Those are heartbreakers. Let's look for Jeremy and John to side out immediately here and not let that kind of weigh on their psyche.
For me, I always justify it by saying it was my big block that funneled the ball to the defender, and so I just gave a little too much on the block, but you know, my hands are about 3.5 inches over the tape, so.
In the announcer, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. The announcer jinx fully in effect there, as they do end up kind of giving that one away, and we're at match point for Trevor and Rosie. Chance to battle Billy and Stafford, who played so well in our first semifinal.
Go, go.
Rosie all over that one.
Swing at it, big fella.
Oh, look at that.
And there it is.
Oh,
what a play
shot.
to finish. Kidding me, the stuff from Rosie off the shin of Jeremy Casebeer.
For my first AVP tournament was Salt Lake City a few years ago, and I watched Jeremy warm up juggling a soccer ball for about 15 minutes. Now I know why. What a finish for Trevor and Rosie.
It's going to be an exciting final. We've got Billy Allen, Stafford, on Rosenthal, and Trevor Crabb.
Taking the center stage on NBC at 2 o'clock. Make sure you're checking that one out.
Be a contrast of styles a little bit, I think.